Hey, what's up, guys? Just going over the Confederate Ironclad part of this little series here. The Ironclads were not invented by the United States. The Europeans had them, of course, and they were seagoing. But most of the Ironclads made for the Civil War were kind of like shallow water. A lot of the Confederates, they were defending rivers and bays. Okay, and you had the Union Monitor class, the ones with the turrets. They were sort of like close to the shoreline. They were trying to keep Confederates from getting out. You know, the commerce, the particularly the blockade runners, but they would also use to assault the various ports. Of course, to take them, they couldn't take them really from the ocean. They had to fight inland. Okay, which the Confederacy made very difficult. For the Federals. Now, obviously, the base, the Confederacy, is literally is an agrarian society. The fact that they were able to make 22 ironclads and put them into combat, okay, with varying degrees of success, was amazing. Of course, they had more ambitious plans than that, but the reality was just wasn't able. They weren't able to do it, right? They had to literally create it right there. Oh, let me adjust this. There you go, so you can see it better. Right, she was ill prepared, and the strategic situation was bleak. Okay, long exposed coastline, inadequate coastal defenses, and numerous inlet and rivers that pierced the interior of the new nation. Okay, they weren't traders; they were a new nation. Okay? She had also no navy, right? So the majority of the navy guys were there. So essentially, they took pre-existing ships, okay, like they actually took a frigate and they turned it into essentially an ironclad. They called it casemate. Okay, the whole idea was you put over this wooden structure under the waterline. It was wooden. You would put the armor all around the top, and it was called casemates. Okay, broadside. The broadside is the largest target. It's where you have most of your firepower. Okay, right there you go. Casemate, ironclad, ram, and they had rams. Okay, the idea of ships ramming each other was a big thing in I mean even ancient warfare. You know, ancient naval warfare in the Mediterranean. And even in Japan, Asia, Korea, China, you had them ramming each other. Okay? And there's the famous the Monitor and the Virginia, right? Or the Merrimack, I guess it sounds. And you see the difference here. You see the Monitor has a turret, right? Essentially paving the way for the tank. And you see how low it is. Okay, these ships were not really made to go into the deep ocean. And when they would transfer them, a lot of them would sink. But regardless. Here's an interesting one. The Manassas. This was actually originally made to be a privateer, right? A private to rob ships. This is an interesting battle. You don't hear too much about this one. This ironclad, almost like a torpedo boat. Okay, this was some battle, and obviously getting to the gist of it, you have a lot of these old drawings, right? And you have photos of the battles. Okay, here's one where the Weehawken. USS Weehawken beat the crap out of the Atlanta, right? The armor, the 15-inch guns, but you could say the Union got the better of it, but they vastly outnumbered these guys. And I'll show you an example of it. You know, they go through the schematics. Like I said, most of the reproduction is the right, rams. They were ramming each other. Right. So you have a lot of pen and ink drawings. You don't have a ton of photography, but you know, I like these pen and ink drawings. Right, the Palmetto State. Right, this was a good battle here. So, regardless, I don't want to make this a super long video. You have the pen and ink drawings. You have the history of it. You have the thing. You have these great drawings here, right? The profiles of the various ironclads. Most of them, like I said, in this casemate configuration. Okay, it takes the least amount of work to do to make something that's armored and that can, you know, be something to deal with. For the Battle of New Orleans, the USS Manassas, it looks like a submarine, right? But this never submerged, right? This was some battle. They were ramming each other. Here's a casemate. Now, a lot of the ironclads ended up not being functional. they would just make them floating batteries, so they had no power, and they would just leave them at the obviously in the bay, protecting an area here. Okay? And of course, the famous Virginia, right? The Merrimack. Okay? There's the actual Confederate flag. Okay? The stars, I mean, for people outside of America, the Confederate battle flag is the one that you see banned everywhere. This one, most people wouldn't even know what the hell it is. This was actually the flag of the Confederacy. What flag does it look like? It looks like the original flag. The Revolution, okay? You can argue, more than argue, that the Southerners were actually the true patriots because they were the spirit of the Revolution. But regardless, anyway, let's not get into that. And they started making these big ones here, the Nashville, where they had the paddle wheels, okay? But in this Battle of Mobile Bay, I mean, you always think about the Monitor and the Merrimack, but the Battle of Mobile Bay, this is, I believe, well, they list the battles in the back. This thing was outnumbered. There was like 4 monitors, a bunch of these ships. They eventually surrendered because they were fighting like 9 other ships at the same time. And the last one, the Stonewall, right? The CSS Stonewall Jackson, okay? Not that stupid mob-owned bar, right? that they put up last month. You actually had sales on it. This was the one that was built in France, but it never got to the Confederates. Right, here's a photograph right, at the end of the war, right? So it had sails. It was the only ironclad that had sails. It was more on it was kind of an ocean-going one. This is more like how the European ironclads were. Now, the Europeans could laugh at the American attempts. I mean, the Confederacy had no industry, and the Monitor was a specific type, but they never really used these in combat, the Europeans, and they studied what was going on. Also, the nature of the battles, too, were much different in America. You had to deal with rivers. These things had to go down rivers. Anyway, nice. Now we got photography showing up. All right, just to... Look at this, Stephen Mallory. Yeah, he tried, man. Secretary of the Navy. This dude was widely criticized for the Navy's lack of success during the war. You could argue, Monday night quarterbacking or Monday morning quarterbacking, but the guy tried to do what he could. So they show the different, the battle records of the different ironclads, and the plates, always the plates, and they show the battles. They show where each one had the battle. The Manassas in the Battle of New Orleans, right? The Virginia fighting the Merrimack. The Battle of Mobile Bay, where the Tennessee was literally right. Look at this, right? They took out a monitor with a mine, right? 4 monitors formed a separate column. Okay, the USS Brooklyn led. The USS Hartford was there. After 2 Confederate gunboats were driven off, the majority of the Union fleet attacked the ironclad in the Tennessee. This thing was outnumbered, right? Right, at one point, the Hartford and the Tennessee lay alongside each other, exchanged broadsides at point-blank range. Right, her steering was gone. The Tennessees, the gun, they had no choice but to surrender. They were just badly outnumbered. Here's one, the Charleston, the battle at the Palmetto State, right? The ironclads attacked the blockading squadron. The Palmetto State rammed the USS Mercedita, forcing it to surrender. Right, the ironclads continued to defend the harbor until the city fell to Sherman in the interior when the infantry and the cannons came. Yeah, so Palmetto State, very underrated. I mean, they put up good fights. Considering they were outnumbered, and it was only a matter of time. So, yep. Right. Right, they were built in remote cornfields, right? A lot there had to be subterfuge here. Anyway, quality stuff. They had no chance, but they put up a good fight, and that's really it's more important. People say winning or losing is all that matters. I would say it's more important if you fought, okay, than if you lost or won, because now we're all losing without fighting. Anyway, later.